Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin'. Today we're talking about the key baits that we use to target big fish in clear water. Northern guys, this one's for you. You guys have been patiently waiting through the winter for your opportunity to get back out there and start chasing some big bass. But this isn't just for the northern guy. From Great Lakes smallmouth to highland clear water reservoirs in the south, bass behavior can be really similar. Clear water makes fish do some crazy things. And as a result, a lot of guys are scared to chase them because it's different from everywhere else. But it's not complicated. We have some key baits that we throw throughout the spring. Now, northern guys, this video is timed for you. We know it's starting to be go time for you guys, so we wanted to give you our key baits from the various categories, both power fishing and finesse fishing, the things we trust, we rely on, the key colors we use, the heads we use, so that as you guys are filtering back out onto the water, you can target those fish with confidence this spring. Again, this is not just smallmouth driven, although when I go north, I love to target big smallmouth. Tim and I and our families, every year we make this homage north to chase big smallmouth. But we catch a lot of big largemouth too. And like I said, this works in largemouth fisheries, spotted bass fisheries, these exact same baits. Anywhere that you get clear water on a highland reservoir, it's the exact same thing. So with that said, let's jump into it. I've got a handful of bait categories here. And again, my confidence, or my goal here is just to give you my confidence as you guys get out onto the water. Let's start with finesse fishing, and then we'll end with the exciting power fishing techniques. One thing you're going to notice when it comes to finesse fishing, I've got two categories here. We've got tubes, we've got drop shots. There is a glaring hole in the middle where a Ned rig should be. The reason why is that I want you to keep it simple this year. I'm not telling you not to throw a Ned rig. We're all gonna throw a Ned rig. But when I go north, I personally have way more confidence in a tube and a drop shot. There's something magical about a drop shot, especially out on the Great Lakes. Fishing the big clear water, a drop shot just gets bit when nothing else will. And then the tube I use for some very specific things. So let's kick it off with a drop shot. First thing to understand about a drop shot is that your setup is everything. Obviously, light line, clear water. You want light line, and you'll notice every single bait today, from big swim baits down to the drop shot, is geared towards lighter line than I would use if I was fishing in murky water. First thing is I'm going to use an extremely light hook. This is an Owner Mosquito Light size 2. When I go to set up my drop shot, I'm going to use somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 pound fluorocarbon. That's what I fish with in clear water, with a little tiny size 2 nose hook and then a tungsten weight down below. The reason why I do that, the nose hook, let me just grab any one of these baits, it doesn't matter. When you do that nose hook, you poke right through the center, and that bait just sits perfectly on that hook. Hopefully you can see that. Now obviously it's sitting this way in the water as you're working it. When those fish grab that thing, it takes almost no pressure for that hook point to catch skin and stick those fish. Almost no pressure at all. So fishing 5 pound, 6 pound, even going down fishing 4 pound, you just lean back and you get those fish. Now, that Owner Mosquito Light is key. There's a reason I use that hook. It has to do with the weight of the hook itself. I've got 3 drop shot worms that we're about to talk about. all of them are very similar in their behavior. I like a certain style of bait when I'm in the North Country, but all of it revolves around this Owner Mosquito Light. And the reason why is that this hook weighs less than almost every other drop shot hook. Whoop, we got things blowing away here. Because it weighs less, the baits hover longer. So if you use too heavy of a hook, your baits will stand up and sink. That hook actually pulls them to the bottom. These subtle differences are everything in clear water. Go with the lightest hook that you can get so that when you work your bait stays up off the bottom longer, it stays more neutral, it stays more flat, and it lets that worm work the most. I noticed that fishing Lake Michigan, where I'd be drop shotting and I'd get hung up on the zebra mussels. And I switched to an Owner Mosquito Light and I stopped getting hung up. And it was because the baits would fall so much slower that I'd never get that hook back down and get stuck in those zebras. Huge difference. Let's jump into the baits themselves. 3 baits for you, no particular order. First one, that Big Bite Baits Smallie Smasher. Comes in 2 sizes. I like the smaller one. I've got a couple of favorite colors. Of course, all this stuff we're gonna link in the video description for you. But that Smallie Smasher it's got that movement. 2 more that have that movement. One, net bait, the crush worm. That crush comes in 2 sizes. I like both of them. The smaller one is a little bit fatter. The longer one is more tapered like this. But this particular color too, I destroy on the big water with anything with that light sand type color to it. I just blast fish on them. Confidence through the roof with that color. It just gets them. And then the last one, and almost the same color, this one's from X-Zone. This is the Finesse Slammer. So they got their Slammer, comes in several sizes. We want the Finesse, the little guy. That's this guy. And again, kind of a sandy type color. That's where all my confidence lies. The Slammer is one that I threw years ago, caught a pile of fish on, and I don't know if it's to my benefit or to my fault, but I have this habit of like cycling through baits. I love baits for a few years and then they'll sort of fade away for me, and then later down the road, it's like I rediscover them. They come full steam back into my arsenal. You guys have probably noticed some of my favorite baits over the years will just sort of vanish for a while. It's my fishing style. I'm constantly adapting, constantly trying new things, and older things will fade out. But the ones that have really stood the test of time find their way back in. So that Slammer is one that I threw for years, and then it just sort of went away. And lately I've been picking it back up. But those are some key baits that I trust when I go north. And I don't care if we're talking about fishing on the big water, if we're talking clear inland reservoirs, or if we're talking the middle of the country, dropping into a highland reservoir somewhere, targeting spotted bass. Those 3 baits all have that beautiful action where you overwork the rod just a little bit, little larger movements, and it'll really flow, and then they just sort of hover and straighten themselves up. And I work them a little harder than other worms, but I let them sit longer between movements. That really lets them stall out, and that's when you get the bites. So again, I have a lot of confidence in the drop shot. I have a lot of confidence in a tube. The tube for me, again, is a major player. I love to throw the tube pre-spawn, but I really like to throw it post-spawn. The tube, now I've got a couple of tubes here for you. I really simplified this category. Again, my whole goal here is just that you guys will walk away from this video with confidence, because you've had all winter to brainstorm what you're gonna throw, right? Some guys have been on the water for a while now, but the true northern guys, I mean, your opportunity's just coming. And we know that. We feel bad that you don't get the fish as often as we do. And we know you're gonna take full advantage of the time you've got. So we're just trying to relay that confidence. So tubes, we've got 2. It's really 3 though. That net bait STH tube. and then the Savage Gear Goby tube. But the STH is 2 sizes. There's a 2.5, and then the bigger guy. This is the 4. But when I'm in the north, I have all the confidence in the world in double dipped style tubes, not skinny little tournament tubes. I do better with tournament tubes fishing farther south, and that might be in my head, but regardless, I destroy with those double dip style tubes in the north. So the bigger 4-inch, and then the one that really shines for me is the smaller 2.5. And again, in the video description, we'll link the exact colors, hardware, all that stuff. But that 2.5-inch tube is so deadly. That's that same sandy type color, that's Juvenile Goby. I fish this smaller tube on a very specific head, and I will link it in the description for you. It's not even a tube head. It was never designed for a tube. It's like a happy accident. It's a Blade Runner head that is magic for big smallmouth. It's a stout hook, but a really small hook. It fits beautifully in a 2.5-inch tube. And when you stick those fish, I mean, you've got them. You don't have to worry about it. So a 2.5-inch tube on a heavy wire, tiny hook is the deal. My bigger tubes, I fish on more of a standard type tube head. Now the oh, excuse me, I got a big whiff of the scent in that bag. Ooh, it's potent. The Savage Gear, the Goby tube, this is one that I really use post-spawn. So pre-spawn, I tend to fish tubes on bottom, pull them, work them along, let them sit, basically dragging them, a little bit of hopping here and there. I fish it like a tube. Post-spawn or late season pre-spawn. What I mean by that is big water fishing, right? Sometimes you've got pre-spawners way later than the inland lakes. Those fish tend to float out there. They suspend in clear water. Unlike, well, actually they do it in murky water too. They're just harder to target. In clear water, you'll see a lot of big fish, smallmouth, spotted bass, whatever. They'll sit out on the color lines. We've covered that in a lot of videos in the past, but they'll sit out, you know, 20 feet, 50 feet, 500 feet offshore and suspend it out there in the water column, depending on the lake. The tube is one of my favorite ways to target those fish. I like to lead them. Again, lighter line, long cast, long rod, long cast. In the clear water, those fish that suspend, they see the tube falling. And the reason I like a tube, and one of the reasons why I love this Goby style tube, see, it's a full Goby profile. It's got actual fins on it. It's actually got a full face too, but you can't see that. That's not important. It's those fins. Any of these tubes, you throw that tube out there on a proper head and you free spool it in that open water. And they do, I call it a death spiral. A tube will sink like this, going down. You don't want a tube that just sinks like a rock. You want that thing to just slowly spiral to the bottom. Those big fish, regardless of species, will spot that thing sinking and they just go to it. And I've lost track of how many times I've done that and my tube is sinking out of sight, and I'll lead a fish by 10, 20, 30, 50 feet in clear water. It'll be sinking out of sight and you see that big fish start moving and then they just disappear. And you just wait, because it takes time for them to get there, but you know they've seen it. You give them time, and then I give it one little bump. Dong! Countless times I've caught giants doing that. It works so well. It's an awesome way to target those big fish. And that is why you see a tube in here instead of a Ned rig, because the Ned rig is great for fishing the bottom, but so is the tube. And the tube has this whole extra thing that you can do with it as well. And with that, we wash our hands of finesse fishing. Not that there's not 20 other great ways to catch them, but those two are very specific for me. Tons of confidence. I do very detailed things with them. Let's talk reaction. This is the fun stuff for me. We're gonna start right here, the A-rig. Probably the least popular of all the reaction baits, especially in clear water. What I mean by that is guys go to the north. I'm one of them. I go to the north to target smallmouth. And I like to do it on 5-pound line, 6-pound line, 7-pound line, super long rods, highly sensitive gear. It drives me crazy that that same fish will just swim up and eat an A-rig, but they will. And I mean the big ones will. Pre-spawn, giant Great Lakes fish will eat an A-rig. Tim and I this year, we designed with Hog Farmer the Tactical Mini Flex. That's this rig. It's much, much smaller than a standard rig. As a result, you can throw way smaller baits, way lighter line. I mean, you can throw this on a medium heavy with 15-pound, no problem. And if you're in a true clear water situation, if you want to lob them and use smaller heads on it, I mean, you could totally do it with 12-pound. It's amazing. You get all the benefits. It's still an A-rig. It's still a full school. The wire is super strong. There's nothing lacking between this and our full-size rig, but you just get the added benefit of that downsized profile for clear water fish, and it works. So again, when I go north, I don't throw an A-rig a lot because I'm stubborn. I'm there for a reason. I'm like, nope, I'm here to finesse fish. That's what I'm gonna do, except for a swim bait. I'm a sucker for a swim bait. We'll get to that. But I mean, some of the biggest smallmouth every year that come out of the north come on a rig, whether or not guys talk about it. Second category here is a spy bait. I love fishing a spy bait. Absolutely love it. I mean, the Duo Realis spin bait brought this technique to the US. There are tons of spy baits on the market now. There are 2 or 3 that I have a lot of confidence in. There's a lot that I've caught fish on, but it's like a fish here, a fish there. There are definitely certain spy baits that just seem to blast fish. That Duo is one of them. The other one for me, my biggest player in the spy bait category, is this from Spro. The Spro spy bait is one that I stumbled on. It's got all black hardware on it, comes with phenomenal hooks already on it. You fish it straight out of the pack, you don't change anything. I blast them on this Spro. I mean, I have done some serious work on some big smallmouth with this thing. But just the spy bait in general is a fantastic technique because it's a power fishing technique that works in clear water. It can even work when it's calm, although it works better when there's a little chop on the water. But you're able to cover a ton of water. I personally like to throw them on super light line on long rods. I throw it a lot. Now, they're hard baits and they've got treble hooks. You can snag them up and lose them, but you fish them mid-column. So once you've got a feel for it, you're not gonna snag them up. So I throw my spy baits on 5-pound a lot. And I throw them on a Loomis 901, which is a super high-end rod. It's my hair jig rod, which we're coming to, but I love it for a spy bait. You could also bump up to like a 902 and also bump up to 6 or 7-pound line. But personally, I throw it on a 901 with 5-pound because I get a ton of bites. And it's a pure power fishing technique, covering water, drawing fish, but I'm doing it with such light line that I get bites that I can't get on other baits. And again, it's got, that Spro in particular, has perfect trebles on it. Those are nano finesse trebles. They come stock, so I can stick them with 5-pound. It's really fun. Next up is that hair jig that I just alluded to. And the hair jig is one of those things that guys in the South are like, what on earth is that? How do you fish that thing? When you see this in my hand, I want you to think spinnerbait, chucking and winding. You take these little black hair jigs. Now, there's other colors too, but my confidence is black, right? This is about confidence. I throw black hair jigs 99.5% of the time. It looks like a little leech in the water. You throw them out and you wind them back like a swim bait or a spinnerbait. That's it. I don't even get fancy with them. I just cover water and dong, those fish eat that thing. It's one of those baits that doesn't fire every day. But when it's its day, nothing else can touch it. So you always have to have them with you. Always got to have one on deck, and you've always got to check it. That's how I fish it. I like to just cover water. But I mean, they come out and eat them. Next up, small little finesse swim baits. I've got 3 here for you. 2 that need to be rigged, 1 that doesn't. Kitech and the Megabass Spark Shad. That is the north, right? Those are the main baits that you see thrown. I've got 3 different heads that we throw with them. This is a tactical finesse head. This is a guppy head. And this is our tactical underspin that we did with Dirty Jigs. The underspin is completely overlooked with most northern anglers. I think because of the clear water, people think they don't need the blade, don't need the flash. There is a time and a place for an underspin, even in the clearest water. If you've overlooked it, add a finesse underspin to your mix. These 3 heads, we use them for different baits. So the guppy head and our underspin, you'll notice the head itself is the same, but completely different keeper. Obviously this one has a dropper arm with a blade. This one also has a stouter hook. Much stouter. I don't know if you're able to see it or not, but they're the exact same size. They're both 1/0, but one is much thicker wire than the other. You will not bend this out on a mega smallmouth. You won't. That's what we designed it for. We designed it for a lot of things, but we had that in mind when we designed it. The tactical finesse head, some people know exactly what this head's for. Other people have completely missed the boat. We throw the Matt Allen swimbait head a lot. That's my head. We also have the screwed up swimbait head. Those are both heavy wire hooks. We designed the tactical finesse head. I think people get hung up on finesse because when they think finesse, they think little guppy head, right? The guppy head is fantastic. Use it. We designed this to be a light wire hook for full size swim baits. There was a gap. You were either throwing tiny stuff or you were throwing heavy wire. And in clear water, you need the option to drop down to 8, 10, 12 pound line to get bit. So we built the tactical finesse with 1 size hook. No matter which head size you get, no matter which one, it's all the same hook. That hook will fit perfectly in a 3.8, a 4.3, a 4.8. It's designed to give you a light wire hook option in all of those mid-range swim baits. Back to the swim baits themselves. Bigger profiles, I love to throw that 3.8 Fat Swing Impact Kitech. This is one of the newer colors that came out, and that's a phenomenal color too. I'll link that in the video description for you, along with some of our other favorites. The other one though is the Spark Shad. This Spark Shad, the 3-inch Spark Shad specifically, rigged on a guppy head. I used to throw a 2.8 Kitech a lot when I was in the north. And one of our buddies would just swear by this little Spark Shad. And slowly but surely, he proved himself right. I have so much confidence in a 3-inch Spark Shad on a guppy head compared to a 2.8 Kitech on a guppy head. This is a smallmouth crusher. Now, if you're just in a highland reservoir somewhere, middle of the country, in the south, Kitechs are awesome, but specifically speaking to giant smallmouth, a Spark Shad is a magical little bait. Like, here's a 2.8 Kitech right there for a size comparison. Virtually the same, but the action is very, very different, and the Spark Shad has what those jumbo smallmouth eat. And then the last one, my favorite, frankly, the Megabass Dark Sleeper. The Dark Sleeper, to this day, is an overlooked, misunderstood bait. And I say that with it being a Tackle Warehouse bestseller. I mean, these things sell like fire all across the country, all across the globe, frankly. And I still think people are missing the boat. They're that good. The thing about a Dark Sleeper is that it's a weedless bait. So think Goby, think sculpin. That's what the profile is, okay? But the hook is hidden by this top fin. That gives it a little bit of protection. It's got a stout but very small hook. I actually use the Megabass Dark Sleeper rod. It's dedicated to this bait for me. And I throw it on 12-pound straight fluoro on a Shimano Aldebaran. It's a dedicated Dark Sleeper combo. I throw it everywhere I go. It crushes. The Dark Sleeper is a special bait. It just catches fish. Lots of people throw it. I think more people would throw it if they realized just how good it was. They're also cheap. And unless you got bad luck and a pike comes and just clips the tail off it on the first bite, they will catch a ton of fish before they wear out. So in terms of actual cost, I mean, a Dark Sleeper is super cheap compared to just blowing and going through a bunch of Kitex during the course of a day. Now, with that said, the Dark Sleeper likes to have its nose rise. As a result, I like the 3-inch size more than any of the others. That's my favorite size. And I use the 1/2 and the 3/4 ounce. Okay, if I'm using a 3/8 ounce in a 3.8 Kitech, I'm using a 1/2 ounce in a Dark Sleeper, and I'm achieving the same thing, okay? So keep that in mind. Always weight higher on a Dark Sleeper. If I'm fishing flats, I'm fishing 1/2 ounce. If I'm fishing sloping bank, going to deeper water, I'm fishing 3/4 ounce. Sounds like a lot, but just trust me on this. I will save you buying extra baits. That 3/4 smashes. It's not a bunch of extra. You do want it. 1/2, 3/4. Those are the two sizes that I throw. And I throw that 3/4 a lot. I mean, I'll throw a 3/4 at least half of the time. And if we're talking about something like a 3.8 Kitech, you will literally never, ever, ever catch me throwing a 3/4 on that. Max I'll ever throw is a 1/2. And it's usually 3/8 or even lighter. So in the sleeper, just size up. Just trust me. It keeps that nose down. It keeps good contact and it works better. Next up, let's talk bigger swim baits. And then we're gonna end with jerk baits. Bigger swim baits. This is a blast. This is a category I love. 1 glide bait, 2 soft baits. The glide bait is this guy right here. You guys know that we love the G-Rat Sneaky Pete for chasing big largemouth. This is the Pistol Pete, the little guy. I love throwing this for smallies. I love throwing this in clear water. I like throwing it for spotted bass. It's got a ton of action. One trick you can do too is add a split ring to the nose and the action will get even wilder. But it's a super twitchy, super darty bait and they're pretty inexpensive. I really like that little glide. Now, for swim baits, we've got 2 here. The Megabass Mag Draft, the 6-inch Mag Draft, and then the Big Bite Baits B5, okay? I use both of these a ton. The Mag Draft comes with a size 2 treble. If you're gonna throw it on light line, like 12-pound line, fish the stock hook. If you're gonna go up to heavier line, like 15 or 17-pound line, I switch out to an Owner ST56 size 2. Again, I'll link it in the description. You don't have to try and write that down or memorize it. It'll be down there for you. But that ST56 size 2 is just that much more power. And if I go to heavier line, I can really stick it to them with that hook. But that Mag Draft destroys. It's incredible. And I love this MSS color for big smallmouth. Absolutely love it. I throw whiteback shad a lot for largemouth and spotted bass, but I love that blue and chartreuse for chasing those smallies. And then the big bite, the B5, this is a line through. So you actually pass the line through, tie it to the hook, and then just bury the treble hook in the belly. It's even smaller than the mag draft, even finessier. I throw this on 12-pound a lot. I'm talking straight fluoro, 12-pound straight fluoro. It has a size 4 treble. And again, I go to that ST56 size 4, but I'm able to throw that thing and they just cannot get off it. I mean, a smallmouth will come up and eat it whole. You stick them, they'll be jumping, twisting, twirling. They can't spit that thing because that bait slides up the line. So the B5 is a 5-inch. The mag draft is a 6-inch. If I can get them to eat the bigger one, I always go to the bigger one. But if they won't eat it, if the baits they're eating are smaller, I go to that 5-inch. This is a fantastic jump up from here. If you're getting bit here, you need to try this because the size of fish takes a step up. All right, last but not least, we've got jerkbaits. And jerkbaits, again, I try to keep really simple. I just grabbed 3 for you. The first one is the Megabass Vision 110. I mean, can you talk about going north and not talk about a Vision 110? Is that even possible? One thing I will say is I want you guys to focus on those brighter, bolder, more obnoxious colors. The days where it gets slicked off, now you can crush on a matte shad. You can crush with it. But I tend to get my better bites and I tend to get those magical days going when I use bold colors. They won't eat them every day, but I'll go out and I'll catch a few on matte shad. Go out the next day, catch a few on it. Go out the next day, catch a few on it, but I decide to switch to a bold. And if it's a day where they want to eat bold, it goes from like an okay jerkbait bite to wrecking shop on those fish. These brighter, bolder colors like elegy bone, these are the baits where if they're in the mood, if they want to do it, you have those days that you never forget, where you just go down the bank just wrecking big fish. And then on the days where it is a little more subtle, maybe I don't have as much chop on the water, like this guy here. It's matte, but it's still got that little bit of chartreuse. Again, I'll link it in the video description for you. But that little more subtle, but still has that little kick of chartreuse, I've destroyed here too. So the Vision 110 is number one. Number 2 is that Vision 110 Junior, but in the +1. That bait, +1 meaning bigger bill, dives deeper. It also runs a little steeper. So the Vision 110 sits pretty flat. The +1 sits steeper. Just dives deeper, dives faster. That is another one of those baits that's just special. It just stands out from all the others as a fish catcher. And again, I love those bright, bold colors. They won't do it every day, but on the days they will do it, you don't want to miss it. And then last but not least, it's the Shimano World Minnow. That's a bait I put a ton of time into last year and just crushed with it. Caught a lot of big ones and caught a lot of fish. But it's got that flash boost in it where you're working that bait and you stop, you stall it out, and it just sits there and continues to flash. And I've had some fish that I absolutely believe I caught because of that flash boost, where the bait had already paused. I'm frozen up because I'm looking at the giant fish in the clear water and I'm thinking, oh no, it's over. And boom, they blast it at a time where they absolutely shouldn't. And I believe that's because they're seeing that movement still happening and they commit and do it. Guys, this is an amazing time of year. You guys know, if you're in the north, you have been waiting and your time is finally here. If it's not here yet, it's gonna be here really soon. These are the baits, when we go north, these are the baits we bring. These are the things we fish with confidence. We know we can catch fish on them. I want you guys to get out there this year. I want you to blast a personal best smallmouth, catch a giant northern largie, just have fun out there. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.